Have you ever dreamed you won the lottery, then woke up and realized your bank account didn't get the memo? Yeah, we've all been there. But what if the dream wasn't a cruel joke? What if it was a warning label for something amazing? Today, 9 real stories of people who got mysterious signs right before winning big. Dreams, voices, gut feelings, and then jackpots. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming, and let's jump in. Sign number 1. The dream that came with a receipt. We're starting with a story that sounds like it was written by a screenwriter who got fired for making the plot too unbelievable. Meet Alonzo Coleman. Alonzo is a retired gentleman living in Henrico, Virginia. It's the summer of 2022, and Alonzo is going about his business, living that peaceful retiree life. Then one night, he has a dream. Not a vague, fuzzy dream. This was high-definition surround sound, crystal clear. A specific sequence of numbers appeared like they were printed on a billboard. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, with the bonus ball being 19. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Most players avoid consecutive number sequences. People think, there's no way 6 numbers in a row are going to be drawn. But here's the beautiful irony of probability. A sequence like 13 through 18 has the exact same mathematical chance of being drawn as any random jumble of numbers. Your brain just doesn't believe it because it looks too clean. But Alonzo? Alonzo didn't care what the math said. He cared what his dream said. And his dream was very specific. So he walks into his local lottery retailer and uses the Virginia Lottery's Play Your Way option. This feature lets you divide a single $2 ticket into multiple plays with the same numbers. Alonzo played the exact same dreamed sequence 4 separate times on one ticket. 4 times. The man was basically telling the universe, I heard you the first time, but just to be safe, let me quadruple down. On June 11th, 2022, in the bank a million drawing took place, and guess what numbers came up? 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, bonus ball, 19. Alonzo Coleman won 4 prizes from a single ticket. After taxes, he walked away with $250,000. When he showed up to claim his prize, he was wearing a t-shirt that read, "And I am not making this up. I am a grumpy old man." Iconic. He told officials he planned to use the money to pay off medical bills and buy a new home for himself and his wife. And honestly, if your dreams start giving you winning lottery numbers, the least you can do is get a nice house out of it. Sign number 2. The grandmother who out-hustled the system. Now, if Alonzo's story impressed you, wait until you hear about Mary Wallens. Because Mary didn't just follow a sign, she used it to execute what might be the most genius lottery move in Canadian history. Mary Wallens was 86 years old, living in Toronto, Canada, and still sharp as a tack. In September of 2006, Mary had already bought her regular ticket for the Lotto 649 draw, using her usual numbers: 1, 10, 18, 24, 31, and 46. But then, a few days before the September 30th drawing, Mary had a dream. In this dream, she saw a lottery ticket that was a winner. She saw a big, fat check, and it had her name written on it. The dream was vivid, overwhelming, impossible to shake off. Now, most people would have thought, oh, nice dream, fingers crossed. But Mary Wallens was not most people. Mary went out and bought a second ticket with the exact same numbers. Let's pause. Because from a statistics perspective, this is a bonkers move. If your numbers are wrong, you lose double. If they're right, you're splitting the jackpot with yourself. It makes zero logical sense, unless you're Mary Wallens and the universe has just given you the cheat code. Here's what happened. The drawing took place and Mary's numbers hit. All 6. Jackpot. But here's the twist. There was another winner too. He's a man named Ramon Sands from Abbotsford, British Columbia, had also matched all 6 numbers, so the $24 million jackpot had to be divided among the winning tickets. Now, if Mary had only bought 1 ticket, the split would have been simple. $12 million for her, $12 million for Ramon. 50-50, but because of her dream, because of that strange, vivid sign that compelled her to buy a second identical ticket, Mary held 2 out of the 3 winning shares. She received $16 million. Ramon got $8 million. Mary Wallens literally dreamed her way into an extra $4 million at 86 years old. When asked about her plans, she said she wanted to visit Las Vegas and buy a new house. An 86-year-old grandma heading to Vegas after outsmarting the lottery. If that's not a movie, it should be. Sign number 3. The pastor's divine numbers. From a savvy Canadian grandmother, we now travel to Trenton, New Jersey, where our next story takes on a decidedly more spiritual flavor. Meet Pearlie Mae Smith. Pearlie Mae was a pastor, a woman of deep faith, a matriarch presiding over a large and close-knit family. She was not what you'd call a regular lottery player. In fact, she'd go on record saying that gambling wasn't really her thing. But in May of 2016, something happened that she couldn't ignore. Pearlie Mae had a dream. In the dream, a set of numbers appeared with such force and clarity that she described it as nothing less than a divine intervention. The numbers were 5, 25, 26, 44, 66, and the Powerball was 9. She said the numbers didn't just appear, they entered her head, as if placed there by a higher power. Now, when a pastor tells you she received numbers from God, you don't argue. You just buy the ticket, and that's exactly what the Smith family did. Pearlie Mae, along with her 7 adult children, played those divinely delivered numbers. And when the Powerball drawing happened, every single number matched the jackpot, $429.6 million. At the time, this was one of the largest Powerball prizes ever awarded. The family chose the lump sum payment of $284 million. But here's what makes this story truly special. They didn't go on a shopping spree. They didn't buy yachts or private islands. Instead, they established the Smith Family Foundation, a charitable organization dedicated to funding education and community development projects right there in Trenton, their hometown. Valerie Marie Arthur, the family spokesperson, said at the official press conference that the numbers were a gift meant to empower their community. So, let me get this straight. A pastor dreams some numbers, wins almost $500 million, and then uses the money to help her entire city. If that's not a sign from somewhere, I don't know what is. Sign number 4. The programmer who debugged his dreams. All right, let's shift gears from the spiritual to the analytical. Because our next winner is a man who lives in the world of data, logic, and code. And yet, he still couldn't explain what happened to him. Victor Amole was a computer programmer living in Woodbridge, Virginia. A guy who spent his days thinking in algorithms and binary code. Not exactly the type to make life decisions based on a dream. But in January of 2018, Victor had a dream unlike anything he'd experienced. 5 numbers appeared with startling clarity: 3, 10, 17, 26, and 32. As a man of technology, he knew the odds. He understood probability. He knew a dream was just neurons firing randomly. And yet, these numbers felt different. They felt intentional. So Victor did something wildly irrational. He drove to the Fast Mart on Jefferson Davis Highway in Stafford, Virginia, and bought 4 Cash 5 lottery tickets, all with the same numbers from his dream. The drawing happened on January 13th. The 5 numbers drawn were 3, 10, 17, 26, and 32. Victor won $400,000, 4 jackpots of $100,000 each. He told the Virginia Lottery he'd never had a dream like that before and planned to invest the money wisely. Because of course the programmer invests wisely. But here's the real question. When a guy who writes code for a living follows a dream instead of an algorithm, and it works, what does that tell us? Sign number 5. The gas station attendant who felt the future. Now, most of the signs we've talked about so far have involved specific numbers appearing in dreams. But what happens when the sign isn't a set of numbers? What if it's a feeling, a deep, physical, the undeniable sensation that something extraordinary is about to happen? That's exactly what happened to Timothy Schultz. In 1999, Timothy was a college student working at a gas station in Des Moines, Iowa. He wasn't wealthy or particularly lucky, just a regular guy trying to get through school. Then he had a dream, not about numbers, about the experience of winning. He saw himself winning the lottery. He felt the rush, the disbelief, the joy. And when he woke up, the feeling didn't fade. Timothy described it as a somatosensory premonition, a full-body vibration, a certainty that lived in his bones. He didn't know when it would happen. He didn't know the numbers. He just knew, with absolute, unshakable conviction, that he was going to win the lottery. So he started playing. Regularly. Not because he was a gambling addict, but because he felt like he was keeping an appointment with destiny. And eventually, destiny showed up. Timothy won the Powerball jackpot, $28 million. Now, the aftermath wasn't entirely smooth. There was a legal dispute with a coworker about whether the ticket was purchased jointly, but that was eventually resolved. What Timothy did next is truly fascinating. He became a documentarian and podcaster, creating a show called Lottery and Dreams and Fortune, where he interviews other lottery winners about the signs and premonitions they experienced. He turned his mysterious experience into a career, investigating whether these signs are more common than we think. Spoiler: they are. Sign number 6. The man who wrote himself a check from the future. If Timothy Schultz's story is about feeling the future, our next story is about manufacturing it, or at least setting the table for it. Daniel Howard is from the United Kingdom, and his story might be the most cinematic of the bunch. Approximately 3 years before he actually won the lottery, Daniel had a dream that played out like a scene from a movie. In the dream, he walked into a post office, handed over a lottery ticket, and the clerk behind the counter scanned it, looked up, and told him he'd won £1 million. Then the clerk handed him a giant ceremonial check. Most people would wake up from that dream, smile, and forget it by lunchtime. Not Daniel Howard. He woke up and decided he was going to take that dream dead seriously. He wrote himself a check for £1 million, an actual, physical check, made out to himself, for £1 million. And he kept it where he could see it every day, a constant visual reminder that his dream was going to become reality. On top of that, Daniel reported hearing what he described as an inner voice at the specific moments, telling him when he should play. For 3 years, he played the Euro Millions lottery, guided by his dream and that inner voice. And then, in 2019, it happened. Daniel checked his Euro Millions Millionaire Maker ticket and discovered he had won exactly £1 million. Tax-free, because that's how lottery winnings work in the United Kingdom. The scene from his dream, walking in, handing over the ticket, being told he was a millionaire, replayed almost exactly as he had seen it 3 years earlier. The man experienced the most intense case of déjà vu in financial history. Daniel initially chose to remain anonymous, an option in the United Kingdom, but later shared his story on the Lottery, Dreams and Fortune podcast, the same one hosted by Timothy Schultz from our previous sign. See? It's all connected. Daniel Howard didn't just receive a sign, he turned it into a physical object. He manifested a check before the money existed. And then the money showed up. Sign number 7. The actor. Beneath the fortune teller and the lucky bone. Alright, grab some popcorn because this next story reads like a supernatural thriller starring someone who was already theatrical before the lottery got involved. John Falcon was an actor and cabaret singer living in New York City. We're talking about a guy who performed on stages, sang in clubs, and lived the kind of colorful, dramatic life that most people only see in movies. So, when the universe decided to send John a sign, and it went full Broadway production about it. The first sign came through his grandmother. John's grandmother had already passed away, but she kept showing up in his dreams. Not in a scary way, more like a wise, gentle presence. In these recurring dreams, she communicated a clear message. A major financial change was coming. But the signs didn't stop there. During a trip to New Orleans, because of course the most theatrical lottery story involves New Orleans, John encountered a mysterious woman. She approached him, handed him an object described as a talisman or a lucky bone, and told him, point blank, that he was going to become a very rich man very soon. Between his grandmother's dream visits and this encounter, John felt like the universe was screaming at him. So he maintained a focused, confident lottery routine. And in 1999, John Falcon won $45 million in the New York Lotto. The story was covered by the New York Times, partly because John was already a character and a half. He used the money to produce his own shows and support the arts, exactly what a cabaret singer with a lucky bone and a guardian angel grandmother should do with $45 million. Sign number 8, the woman who unlocked a frequency. Now, and everything we've discussed so far involves a single sign leading to a single win. But what if a sign isn't just a one-time event? What if it's a doorway to something ongoing? That's the case with Kella Grace Gaddis, and her story might be the most mind-bending of them all. Kella lived in Washington State, and like several of our other winners, it all started with a dream. She dreamed she was holding a winning ticket for the Lucky for Life lottery, a game where the top prize is $1,000 per day for the rest of your life. She followed the dream, bought the ticket, and won the main prize in 2014. Amazing, right? That alone would be a great story. But Kella's story was just getting started. After her initial win, Kella described entering what she called a flow state or a luck frequency. She said it was as if winning the first time had tuned her into some kind of signal, and the signal kept broadcasting. Over the next year, just 12 months, Kelly won 286 additional prizes. Not 2, not 10, not even 50. 286, including secondary jackpots and smaller awards. She accumulated nearly $800,000 on top of her original prize. Now, before you say, "That's impossible," these wins are all documented. Every prize above a certain amount generates a tax form called a W-2G, issued by the state. Kella has a stack of them. Kella, who also works as an intuitive healer and writer, documented her journey, explaining that the initial dream was like opening a portal, a combination of meditation, gratitude, and daily synchronicities. She believes once you tune into these signs, they keep coming. Whether you believe in luck frequencies or not, 286 wins in a single year is not normal, and it all started with a dream. Sign number 9. The woman who predicted the exact amount. For our final story, we're heading back to the United Kingdom with the most precise premonition of all. Elaine Thompson lived in Tynemouth, northeast England. And in December of 1995, something extraordinary happened. It was her 10th wedding anniversary with her husband, Derek. Maybe the occasion put her in a reflective mood, or maybe the stars just aligned. Whatever the reason, Elaine suddenly and confidently announced to her friends and family that she and Derek were going to win the national lottery that week. But she didn't just say they'd win. She said they'd win exactly £2.7 million. Not a lot of money, not millions. She specified $2.7 million. Let that sink in. Her friends probably nodded politely and said, "That's nice, Elaine." Because what do you say when someone predicts with decimal point precision that they're about to become millionaires? But then the national lottery drawing happened. And the Thompsons won. When the final amount was calculated, because jackpot totals depend on how many winners share the pot, Elaine and Derek's share came to £2,703,190, £2.7 million. She was off by 3,000, out of millions. The story was covered by the BBC and the Mirror, and the couple became instant celebrities. The probability of predicting not just a win, but the approximate amount with that accuracy is so small that mathematicians basically throw up their hands. Elaine continued living in the area and became a sort of unofficial National Lottery ambassador, appearing at events to celebrate winners. She attributed her prediction to a combination of special dates and an intuitive sensitivity she couldn't quite explain, and nobody has been able to explain it since. 9 people, like 9 signs, and millions of dollars that showed up right on cue. Dreams, voices, lucky bones, self-written checks, and a woman who won 286 times in 1 year. You can call it coincidence. You can call it the universe. You can call it whatever you want. But something was going on. If you enjoyed this, smash that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me which sign gave you chills. You share this with a friend who needs a reason to believe in something weird. Sweet dreams. And if they come with numbers, you know what to do.